I'm gonna be doing something a little different than my usual content today. In celebration of Jungkook's solo, I want to do an astrology analysis of his birth chart. I was so happy when he revealed the time he was born. Unfortunately, we don't know if he was born in the morning or the afternoon, but he did reveal that he was born at 3:23. At least we have 50% chance of being right. I am personally going with the afternoon chart. I do have few reasons as to why I'm going with the afternoon chart. The afternoon chart gives him a Capricorn rising and a Virgo moon. And as we know, Jungkook was very shy, and I just have a hard time believing that Leo moon, especially along with the Leo rising, would be shy, because they're very dramatic and flamboyant and energetic. And Jungkook is definitely shy by nature, especially in a new environment or with new people. And I think that's definitely a Virgo trait. Also, the PM chart puts most of these planets in the upper hemisphere of the birth chart, which indicates someone who leads a life that is more in the public eye and out in the world, whereas most planets laying out on the bottom of the chart would be more private. And I noticed that the AM chart would make him more private than public, and most celebrities do have most of their planets in the upper hemisphere because they do share aspects of their life with the public. And another reason is before his birth time was revealed, a lot of fans thought that he had a Libra rising, and the PM chart actually puts his Libra on his midheaven or the 10th house cusp. So it makes sense that fans were mistaking his midheaven, which is his public persona, as his rising sign. And lastly, I personally thought he could be a Pisces rising because of his big expressive eyes, but the PM chart actually puts planet Neptune in his first house, which gives the similar expression as a Pisces rising, just because Neptune is the ruling planet of Pisces. So let's get into it and take a closer look at his birth chart. PM chart puts most of his significant planets, the Sun, Moon, and Mercury, in his 8th house. There's a lot of energy here in his 8th house, which is fascinating because 8th house is a very complex house. 8th house is traditionally a Scorpio house, but in his birth chart, it is being ruled by Leo. So his ego, outer expression, his emotions and mind can take on Leo traits as well because they live in a Leo house. However, his Sun, Moon, and Mercury are conjunct in the sign of Virgo. Because of the strong emphasis of Virgo in his chart, Jungkook is cautious and reserved. He is shy by nature, a bit anxious, especially around new people or new environments. Virgos are also perfectionists, and they are discerning. They like order and doing things a certain way that they deem as most effective and efficient. That's why sometimes they come off as nitpicky or critical. They're also service-oriented. They want to be helpful and useful in a practical sense. He's motivated by intellect and logic because Virgos are ruled by the planet Mercury, which governs communication, our minds, and our intellect. Virgo is also a mutable sign, which means that they are adaptable and flexible, willing to work with others in compromise. They're also very independent because Virgos, the translation actually means woman who is not owned by a man in the old days, like they're not married, so they are self-reliant. Conjunction means that they're located close together and they intensify and mesh together. The discerning, modest, and detail-oriented Virgo sun qualities are emphasized and empowered by his Mercury and Moon being there too. Mercury likes being in Virgo because Mercury is the ruling planet of Virgo, so Mercury is home in the sign of Virgo. But aside from it being Virgo's ruling planet, it is also said to be exalted in Virgo, which means that it does very well. It's treated royally, respected, and honored. So this placement is extra positive. So Jungkook is intelligent, able to express himself well, and Jungkook's ego and outer expression of who he is, like his sun, aligns with the way his mind works and how he is oriented internally, his Mercury and Moon. This makes him self-assured and comfortable with his own identity. He's confident in his opinions, beliefs, observations, and outlook in life because his ego, mind, and emotions are all on the same page. He honestly doesn't need external validations because he knows himself so well. However, this positioning can also make him self-centered and can ignore others' point of views or perspectives. Eighth house represents things that live in the shadows, literally and metaphorically, deals with secrets, underground things, death, destruction, transformation, rebirth, private matters like sex and intimacy. It is the house that deals with things that we hide. What we see on the surface is only a small portion of what there is to Jungkook's identity and personality. However, the sun being here does shed more light into these parts of him more than other planet placements here, because the sun brings energy and light wherever it lands in a birth chart. He is an intense person who likes to delve deeper into the meaning of life. He is more fascinated by topics that delve beneath the superficial. The planets in his 8th house square his Pluto in his 11th house. They're 90 degrees apart. This adds more Pluto energy to his chart. The 8th house chart is traditionally ruled by the sign Scorpio, as I said earlier, whose ruling planet is Pluto. So they are similar in energy and expression. His planets being in the house that has to do with Scorpio things is making a difficult aspect to Scorpio's ruling planet Pluto. The square aspect speaks to difficult relatings and tension between the planets. So again, Sun speaks to his identity, his ego, self-expression. Moon is his emotions and inner world, and Mercury is his mind and how he thinks and communicates. These areas of him are being challenged by Pluto, the planet that is dark, that deals with transformation, death, and rebirth. This creates a lot of inner struggle and tension, giving him a sense of needing to protect himself and constantly on the lookout for external threats. His defenses against the challenges he has faced throughout his life can manifest in ways that make him domineering, investigative regarding people's motives and intentions, and there may be power plays for control as well. Jungkook has gone through many transformations in his life, having to rebuild and recreate himself over and over again and being tested throughout his life. While it makes him stronger, it can cause suppressed anger or frustration and can definitely even create violent tendencies as well. There are definitely qualities of control, desire to influence, and the ability for subtle manipulation, which are all done subconsciously, of course. He might have a dark sense of humor because Mercury is not just about communication or how we think. Mercury is associated with trickery, playfulness, and mental agility. He may experience a lot of obsessions in his life, whether in context of romantic interests or obsessions to ideas or activities. He would enjoy being captured by irresistible fascinations and attracted to things that bring him emotional pain. He's able to handle struggles and hardships better than most people, so emotional pain isn't always a negative experience for JK. It can really ignite a lot of energy and power within him and give him a sense of being alive. True intimacy is probably highly valuable to him. There can be hunger for intimacy and attachment with his moon being in 8th house and squaring his Pluto, which deals with those sort of cravings. However, people probably have a hard time getting to know him or getting close enough because Pluto is in his 11th house, which is the house of friends, communities, and social circles. People may have to jump through hoops or prove themselves trustworthy to be in Jungkook's inner circle. On the positive note, Pluto does give someone a lot of power. He's charismatic, He's magnetic, has the power to draw people in, and he may even possess psychic powers too. He could be very intuitive, and it may be easier for him to pick up on subtle cues. He can understand and peer through people's true intentions with this placement. I don't know about you, but I do get a strong plutonic energy from JK. There is a side of him that is dark and intense. For example, his tattoos and piercings, his desire to look edgy rather than round and soft. It's like he wants his inner self to be represented on the outside, and at the same time, he probably wants to keep these aspects of himself hidden as well. But the dark edginess is expressed subtly, like it's simmering underneath his soft outer exterior. It is definitely felt in the way he moves, as his Mars is in the sign of Scorpio as well. There is weight and an immovable strength about the way he carries himself at times. His drive and the way he asserts himself have determined strength, and there is a subtle sense of danger to him, like a scorpion, which is the animal symbol of Scorpio, and scorpions are predatory by nature. He is honestly a badass, and he carries a bad boy image regardless of his sweet, seemingly innocent outer persona. He is a true Virgo who behaves like a Scorpio underneath it all, that is living under the spotlight of Leo. That is his 8th house energy in a nutshell. The emphasis and power in his 8th house energy definitely draws people in, and people can get obsessed with him. Being interested in astrology, tarot, and BTS, it's hard to not notice a community of fans that point to fate as the reason behind their attraction to Jungkook. Some believe in twin flame connections, or the fact that JK is in a twin flame connection, a concept that points to someone who has a higher spiritual purpose in connection to romantic fate. Some armies feel like they might have this special bond with JK, and if these fans were to put their own charts over JK's birth chart and do what's called a synastry overlay, they would most likely have strong Pluto themes within the relating of their charts. Most likely their Venus or Moon would make aspects to Jungkook's Pluto or the planets in his 8th house. Whatever it is, it's hard to resist. Maybe even aspects to his Neptune in his 1st house as well. These aspects can cause a feeling of meant to be and a sense of fate. Pluto, or the 8th house, draws in Moon and Venus people like moths to a flame. This is why Pluto is known as powerful and an intense sign. His Sun and Mercury conjunction in his 8th house make a sextile aspect to his Mars in the 10th house. Again, this Mars is in Scorpio, and Mars is said to be domiciled in Scorpio, which means Mars does very well in the sign. Mars in Scorpio is determined, has strong willpower and drive. Mars is about what moves us. It can show us our physical movement, and it can also show how we go after our desires. It's our drive, how we express anger, and how we fight for what we believe in. Scorpio is a water sign dealing with emotions, and Mars turns inward in Scorpio and makes someone emotionally strong. Scorpio being a fixed sign, once he makes up his mind or picks a target, he has the stamina to stick through. JK is intense and passionate when going after whatever he sets his sight on. These aspects can make him inflexible, and he can be stubborn at times. Because sextile aspect is a positive relating of planets, his Mars helps or works together with his Sun and Mercury to achieve goals. Sextile is a connection that creates opportunities for success, so these planets work together in a harmonious way. The Sun and Mercury, the ego expression and the mind, says, I want to be a singer, and his Mars will put in the physical work and effort to achieve it. His Mars is in his 10th house of career and status. He is able to use his physical assertion to achieve success in his career. He has a way of controlling his body according to what he sees in his mind's eye. Not everyone can have this kind of connection between their will and physical movement. This makes him a great and powerful dancer as well. So now, let's move on to his 1st house and his ascendant. This house shows Jungkook's personality, how he expresses himself to the world. Jungkook is a Capricorn rising according to his PM chart. The rising sign or the ascendant will show who he is when he first meets someone. Capricorn is an earth sign that believes in hard work. The sign is associated with structure, tradition, status, and limitations. It is also a cardinal sign, which means that it gets things started. It's an initiator. Capricorn season coincides with winter equinox. At the first meeting, Jungkook comes off as practical, disciplined, and somewhat conservative individual with a strong set of moral principles that has respect for tradition and structure. But as you spend time and get to know him a little bit more, you will be exposed to his Neptune conjunct Uranus in his first house. Conjunction just means that the planets are in close proximity, influencing and affecting one another. These two planets will modify the expression of his Capricorn first house because they're part of his personality. Neptune adds sweet, kind, childlike innocence to Jungkook's personality, while Uranus adds the desire for individuality. It makes him sociable and energetic. I love Neptune. Neptune is a beautiful, elusive planet ruling the sign of Pisces. It's nebulous and mystical and is associated with themes of spirituality, higher ascension, dreams, imaginations, and fantasy. It also represents the film industry and Hollywood. On the other hand, it can cloud our vision and affect our perceptions. People tend to project what they want to see onto Jungkook because Neptune is so nebulous and it can be deceptive. This isn't a conscious deception, Neptune just has that effect. People can project their own ideas onto JK because of his position of Neptune in his chart and can blur others' boundaries towards him as well, like invading his privacy, for example. He can seek refuge in alcohol or substance abuse with Neptune's extreme expression, or he might just enjoy daydreaming or watching movies as a form of escapism. Part of him probably desires a perfect romance, or he might dream of a fairy tale life. He is a hopeless romantic with this placement. He is probably spiritual, but not confined with the limits or restrictions of religious dogma or principles. Neptune being in the sign of Capricorn does ground and add stability to Neptune's natural expression. His Uranus is in the sign of Aquarius, a sign that is often labeled and described as distant, aloof, and cold. Uranus energy is difficult to pin down and it's unpredictable. Uranus or Aquarian type of people like to have a shock effect or an element of surprise, wanting to make a mark, desire to be seen as individualistic and unique without confinements of labels or being placed in a box. Neptune and Uranus are 8 degrees apart from each other and they are in different signs, which does add a bit of complexity to the relating of these two planets. His Neptune makes him believe in things such as fate, destiny, can view life in a romanticized manner, or he himself can be seen under these sort of lights by other people. While his Uranus in Aquarius makes him rebellious, eccentric, and unpredictable. These combinations can add a my way or the highway type of a vibe to his personality. This combination gives him quick insights, inspirations that seem to come out of nowhere. It's very creative and innovative. This is a generational aspect, which means that people around JK's age all have this conjunction, but they may have it in different places or areas in their charts. This generation has the power to bring people together through stories and shared experiences using creative pursuits and advancements in technology. Planets in a birth chart are modified by aspects they make to other planets or points in a chart. His Neptune squares his Chiron. Chiron is an asteroid that is known as the wounded healer. It points to areas where we feel a deep wound and trauma. JK's Chiron is in Libra and it's located in the 10th house, conjuncting his midheaven, which represents again his career and public image. Libra being ruled by Venus has to do with love, creativity, aesthetics, harmony, and justice. This can point to wounds or trauma surrounding themes of love or injustice in his career. A difficult aspect between Chiron and Neptune can point to wounds associated with deception and illusion. He may feel guilty or feel saddened by the fact that the love he receives is not based on him as a person, but a portrayed image or a projected persona. So he may not feel authentic at times and may even experience symptoms of imposter syndrome. It could even be related to injustice or corruptions in his industry, discriminations based on lookism, racism, and classism that he may have faced or experienced. This is a wound he would constantly deal with throughout his life, but Chiron also represents the potential for JK to become a teacher or healer for others in dealing with their pain through his own experiences. He can do this through platforms related to Neptune like film or videography. Also, Neptune in his first house squares his Saturn in the third house, and this Saturn is opposing his midheaven, making a triangular shape showing connectivity between his self-esteem, communication, and public image. The opposition is a disharmonious aspect. There is tension between his Saturn and his midheaven. This points to areas of communication that is restricted, limited, or oppressed due to the nature of his work or public image, because third house rules communication as well as short distance travels and our siblings. Saturn being in Aries has to do with restrictions and expression of anger or aggression, inability to express freely or be direct in communication, or the oppression of individuality. These might be some of the themes he experiences in his life due to the nature of his career. Another important areas to look at in a birth chart is the midline connecting his MC and his IC. MC is the midheaven that we mentioned earlier, representing our career and public image, whereas the IC, which is the fourth house cusp, represents our childhood and our upbringing. It's our place in early life within the family dynamic. Whereas MC, or the midheaven, is the opposite of that environment. The environment that we're in our adulthood and areas of career and our place in the world. Aries in the fourth house cusp can indicate that JK was very independent as a child, could entertain himself without a lot of adult supervision, or he might have been left on his own a lot. He could have focused on himself early in life because Aries is the first sign we encounter in this stage of the life journey of the zodiac wheel. It is the baby, the youngest, and Aries is a sign that's all about me. On the other hand, his childhood environment could have been chaotic, and there may have been a lot of energy, a lot of movement and action. It could also represent violence in the family life because Aries is aggression and war. However, later in life, represented by the midheaven or the MC, JK living on his own as an adult would seek what he may have lacked in childhood. With Libra here, he would look to create a balanced and harmonious home life. Rather than focusing on himself, he would focus on others and building relationships with others. He seeks harmonious partnerships and is focused on finding love, beauty, and creativity in his career. Mars and Chiron are in his 11th house, and they have a say in how JK's public life or career plays out. With his Mars in Scorpio, the determined, intense, and passionate Mars gives him the stamina and strength to go through rigorous training to be an idol in a very competitive industry. His Mars squares Jupiter in Uranus. This shows the difficulties he had to overcome, but shows the extraordinary paths he walked to be the person that he is today. With Uranus, he dealt with an unpredictable future and uncertainty in his career, or there was a lot of sudden changes that required shifts in action. With Mars squaring Jupiter in his second house, it indicates expansion and growing of his value, money, and possessions due to his career. Although there were many challenges and difficulties he had to face along the way, in general, Jupiter is a positive influence even in a hard aspect. There was always a sense of optimism, courage, and good luck along his career path. We already touched on his Mars sextile Sun and Mercury, which gives him the physical strength and the ability to assert himself. Mars does also sextile his ascendant. There's energy and strength to his personality that makes him appear confident, assertive, and independent. His Mars also quintiles his moon. I love this aspect because it is a minor aspect that brings magic between two planets or points in a chart. Quintiles show talent, charisma, and creativity. Between his moon and Mars, he has a really good sense of instinct, and typically when he takes action based on his instinct, it never steers him in the wrong direction. He has a way of using his emotional senses to make the right moves at the right time. Chiron is also here in his 10th house along with Mars, and it makes aspects to his first house, squaring Neptune and Uranus conjunction, and it also conjuncts his ascendant. Sextiles his moon in the 8th house as well. So let's go over these aspects really quickly. The square aspects to Neptune and Uranus can create tension and difficulty in separating himself from a group, for example BTS, because it's touching his wound. He may feel a lack of confidence standing alone. On the other hand, he may have a hard time letting himself loose, letting go of control in fear of losing control. There's an aspect of him that fears letting go of reality or getting lost in dreams and fantasies. He has the need to always have one foot grounded firmly in reality and not get lost in his imaginations, having to do with Neptune. The Chiron sextiling to his moon shows the potential for him to provide healing to others through compassion and empathy based on his own experiences. He could really personify a spiritual teacher that helps others in overcoming their pain and trauma. So now let's move on to his love life according to his birth chart. Here we're going to talk about the planets Venus and Mars. Venus is what he finds attractive, and Mars is how he acts based on that attraction. JK's Venus is in the 9th house of his chart, and it's in the sign of Libra. Libra is also ruled by Venus, so this is a positive placement. Venus feels home in Libra. Libra is a cardinal air sign, which makes JK considerate, fair, and other focused. He seeks balance and harmony in relationships, and he's focused on pleasing others and making sure that no one is receiving the short end of the stick. So Venus, in a sign that it rules, makes him romantic. He is responsive to words of affirmation and affection, and is sensitive to beauty and aesthetics. The 9th house is about far-reached places both in physicality and or intangibility. It represents long-distance travel and higher education. So he could find someone who is well-traveled, cultured, or focused on expanding their knowledge very attractive, or he values those things himself. It's possible that he may actually find love overseas with someone who is from a different culture. He would be attracted to someone who is fair, diplomatic, has Venusian aesthetics, who is concerned about worldly matters and are interested in education, or at least education that goes deeper in a particular subject, like someone who is an expert in their field. Exploring the world and growing through spirituality, travels, and accumulating knowledge about the world are some of the things he may enjoy doing with a loved one. Now, his Mars is in Scorpio in his 10th house, and this is how he would go after what he finds attractive, how he would move physically and assert himself. Scorpio Mars is also positively placed because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio before modern astrology gave that ownership to Pluto. But this Mars is intense, emotionally driven, and drawn to danger and mystery. They're prone to jealousy and can have tendencies to be possessive. He could seem cold and detached in approach because Scorpio is a water sign. In its extreme form, it can represent ice or even dry ice. But once he opens up, he is very passionate. When he falls in love, it will be for the long term as he's motivated by intense and deep connections. Short term, superficial flings wouldn't probably interest him as much as other men. It's possible he will find love while working because this placement is in his 10th house of career, and he could find love while traveling for work because, again, his Venus is in the 9th house of overseas travels. However, aside from Venus, the moon is really the type of person he may end up settling with. So his future spouse can possess a lot of Virgo traits because his moon is in the sign of Virgo. So it will be someone who's practical, disciplined, down to earth, and they can be critical at times or nitpicky. His spouse can be cold and detached in some ways and may not like to display messier sides of emotions with a lot of Virgo placements because Virgos are intellectually driven sign and they're not very emotional. Also, another thing to look out for is Virgo's opposite sign is Pisces, and a lot of the times we end up with someone who possesses qualities of our opposite sign. Pisces are dreamy, they're compassionate individuals with a focus on the good of the collective. Ideally, he would really need someone who he can share his darkness with and who wouldn't be scared off by that energy. So that energy, I mean someone with a lot of Pluto energy in their own chart, as they would be able to handle his plutonic experiences. Someone who isn't fazed by depth, intensity, and ups and downs of life. Someone who possesses real emotional strength. So let's quickly go over some of the aspects his Venus and Mars makes to other planets that affect how his Venus and Mars will express itself. Venus trines Jupiter. This indicates that he is lucky in love and finds generous and affectionate qualities in a partner attractive, or that he is generous in giving himself. The Venus is also opposing Saturn, which shows resistance to control and restrictions in love. This could also indicate that what or who he loves can make him feel burdened with obligations and responsibility. For example, he really loves playing the drum, but the obligations to practice and put time into developing his skill can feel like a burden to him. His Mars squares Jupiter and Uranus, and this can indicate that love doesn't work out due to just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. He does travel a lot, so it might be hard to make time for his partner, and unforeseen events stand in his way of forming successful long-term relationships. His Mars also sextiles his Sun, Mercury, and Ascendant, and this can mean that he's flirtatious and he expresses himself well in love. He comes off as confident and courageous in his approach and isn't afraid to strike up a conversation with a love interest. Again, Mars quintile moon in a romantic sense can just point to his charismatic emotional energy. He possesses the skills to go after what satisfies his emotional needs and drive with strength and willpower. Also shows that he has uncanny instincts. The 7th house can point to the opposite qualities that we display willingly in our 1st house, and it is also the point of partners in partnerships. The 7th house can also show our shadows as well. Cancer is the shadow side of Capricorn. It's the opposite sign of Jungkook's rising Capricorn. Cancer is associated with things like home, nurturing, softness, emotional intimacy, emotions and feelings, and the mother. Cancers can be a real mama's boy in one extreme. Cancer, in my opinion, is the most watery of the water signs. The sign is ruled by the moon and is representative of the tides of the ocean. Cancers can be very emotionally driven and emotional. Cancerian qualities are the shadow qualities of Capricorn as they are opposites. These shadow qualities can make Capricorns uncomfortable, although they also possess these qualities as well. Jungkook can see Cancerian qualities as his weaknesses because it's the opposite of how he wants to appear. So he would try to hide these softer qualities himself with toughness and strength. Cancer is symbolized by the crab, which is a creature that has a hard shell to protect their softer insides. They can be very defensive in order to protect themselves. But Jungkook could find these qualities attractive in a romantic partner as well, because the 7th house does represent the other in romance and commitment. The idea of opposite attracts surfaces here again. Someone who's nurturing, emotionally responsive, and sensitive could be a good match to Jungkook. Here, I just want to graze over the areas I haven't discussed during this analysis yet. So let's talk about the 2nd house really quick. He does have Jupiter in his 2nd house. 2nd house is our immediate surroundings, it's our possessions, values, and money. Jupiter being here expands all of this. It is an indication of wealth. He is also probably good with money and is interested in long-term investments. The 3rd house, there is Saturn here, which we already covered a little bit. It represents restrictive communications, the inability to say the things on his mind or share his beliefs due to restrictions or limitations. He may not be very talkative, or he may not enjoy small talk with restrictive Saturn here. I do hear him complain about his lack of ability to express himself or write good lyrics, I guess is more accurate, due to not reading books. I think he has a really gentle way of expressing himself because Pisces does rule his 3rd house. It's the sign that's at the cusp of the 3rd house. But it makes sense that he feels that way because of Saturn taking up space here. He may use more words when communicating, and he may think that this is the reason why he's not a great articulator, because the sign of Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. And Jupiter expands what it touches, so more words, longer sentences may be required to express something. Pisces ruling his 3rd house can make him creative as well. I see Pisces to be a very emotionally creative sign, and like Neptune, Pisces are also spiritual. So he may like to ponder over or talk about spiritual topics. He may also be a lot more interested in esoteric topics than his fans realize, because again, Saturn may restrict him from sharing that side of his interests. The overall picture of his chart is that most of his planets are placed in earth and air signs. He only has one water sign, which is his Mars in Scorpio, and 2 planets in fire, his Saturn and Pluto. The earth elements dominates his personality, so it makes him practical, matter of fact, focused on tangible results. He's motivated by earthly things, things that can be touched, built, and he's less motivated or focused on emotional motivations and emotional needs. That doesn't mean that he's not emotional, of course. But astrology is complex, and how the energies of a chart can manifest varies, and there's endless possibilities. I didn't go over every detail in this chart in this video because that would take hours, but I just wanted to look over the things that stand out to me and give you a general picture of how the energies in his chart can play out if he was born in the afternoon. I hope you found this video insightful and informative, and thank you so much for watching till the end.